Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 154 based on novel. So let's start. 10,000 Beasts Hall Master's heart tightened and he went to inform the magistrate. Qin Mu stopped him as he tilted his head. Wait a moment, there's no need to have everyone leave. 10,000 Beasts Hall Master was slightly stunned, but Hu Ling'e and Cai Yunxiang instantly understood what Qin Mu meant. There's no point in them leaving. If the meteorological weapon gets activated, no one will be able to run away. Even if they run to the capital, they still won't be able to avoid the explosion. This kind of weapon can travel thousands of miles in an instant. If its power was completely unleashed, it could probably shroud the entire Eternal Peace Empire. A chill ran down the back of 10,000 Beasts Hall Master. They were tens of thousands of miles away from the capital, but they couldn't escape even after running all that distance. What kind of weapon was that huge bottle gourd in Fragrance Well? Qin Mu straightened his shirt and walked toward Fragrance Well with unhurried steps. He'd been in a rush earlier, but now he was quite relaxed. Don't let the people in the city leave. Cai Yunxiang was slightly stunned. The people in this city are the god's hostages. If we let them go, he will have no hostages and will immediately activate the bottle gourd, starting the natural disaster. Qin Mu whispered. Cai Yunxiang couldn't help shuddering as she looked at him. The power of the meteorological weapons was too strong. They had tested it in granny-size manner and knew it full well. Not even 1% of Earthquake Cauldron's power had been unleashed, yet it had injured Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, Village Chief, and the rest of the experts with its tremors. The residue power had even traveled several hundred miles and shaken the mountains. If the people in the city stayed, they'd be located at the center of the explosion. This way, if they died, they would feel much less pain. Cough, cough. The god coughed twice, but it wasn't an act, his body was truly weak. His coughing came from near Fragrance Well, as did the sneering voice right after. Little thing, you chased me all the way here, but aren't you afraid I will activate this 5 Thunder Pot? 5 Thunder Pot. Qin Mu walked toward Fragrance Well, going up the steps. He had the divine Flood Dragon King follow beside him as he smiled. This treasure is called 5 Thunder Pot. May I ask which 5 thunders are within it? The divine Flood Dragon King looked at the courtyard in front and frowned slightly. He shook his body, and it instantly became smaller, taking the form of a youth wearing a sapphire blue robe. He looked somewhat fierce, but wasn't bad-looking. The dragon Chilean also shook his body and sucked in his tummy, but it popped out again with a boing. Hu Ling'e immediately covered her face and said with embarrassment, "Fatty dragon, don't call me Sister Ling'e anymore. This is so embarrassing." Other flood dragons bared their fangs and brandished their claws while shouting "Maha Maha." They shook the bodies as well, but none of them transformed into humans. Instead, they all sucked their tummy in before releasing them with a boing. These guys have all gotten pretty fat after following young master. Their little tummies are all bulging out. Hu Ling'e surveyed the dragons with a serious face and thought to herself, I should tell young master to take note of their diet from now on. The flood dragons had not learned the art of morphing before, since Dragon Rearing Sovereign had only raised them for battle. He had never treated them as his disciples, so he didn't teach them the human language either. Qin Mu brought everyone to ascend up the steps. The courtyard before them showed up to be huge, like that of a large manor. In the center of it was the famous Fragrance Well of Purple Chaste City. It was a famous historical site. Rumors said that the land had once been barren, so when a bunch of escapees running from soldiers came to it, they had no water to drink and died from thirst. The survivors then prayed to the heaven, and a miracle happened. The ground swirled and cracked up, revealing a deep well whose water had a lovely fragrance. Because of that, it was named Fragrance Well. Around it was a courtyard built of bricks. It had a tight guard, plenty of which were divine arts practitioners. There were 3 layers of defense inside and 3 layers outside. But at that moment, all of those divine arts practitioners were sleeping on the ground, without a single one being awake. It was obvious that it was the doing of the god. 5 thunder are actually classified with directions north, south, east, west, and middle, and they form 5 great thunderclouds. Qin Mu walked into the courtyard and saw that fragrance well was gone. It had cracked from being burst apart from inside by a huge treasure. It didn't really look like it was a bottle gourd, but like it was made out of green jade in that shape. It was roughly 15 yards tall, and the runes that appeared on it looked like clouds yet not clouds, like dragon yet not dragons, like lightning yet not lightning. Under the bottle gourd sat a man with a horn who looked rather miserable. He was covered in injuries, and there were even a few broken bones sticking out from his skin. They looked quite horrifying. His leg was also broken, resulting in a bloody mess. His bones there were shattered and much of his soul had already rotted. Qin Mu couldn't help feeling sorrowful and asked in concern, "How are brother's injuries?" "You are the one who smashed it, so what do you think?" The one-horned man took a glance at him, his voice lacking politeness. His injuries had been caused by Qin Mu smashing him with a broken moon, which crippled him. If that wasn't enough, he even chased him all the way to the city, and then dared to act courteously by asking him how were his injuries. Qin Mu blushed with shame and revealed an apologetic smile. A doctor treats a patient like the parents a child. Truth be told, this little brother has learned the art of healing and is known as a divine physician with sacred hands. I'm the most merciful, frequently treating people and saving them. I can't bear to see people injured, thus when I saw brother's injuries, my compassion couldn't help stirring. If brother can believe me, I can't. The one-horned god sneered at him. No need to say more. This 5 thunder pot contains 5 thunderclouds, which aren't very big, so they can at most cover the territory of Eternal Peace Empire. There are firebell divine weapons in the clouds, so with a single ring, the entire empire will be buried by lightning. You chased me this far, but aren't you scared I will activate 5 thunder pot? Qin Mu went forward and supported himself on the 5 thunder pot. He said with a smile, "How can I not be scared? But if I don't chase after you, won't you still activate 5 thunder pot? Not only will you activate it, you will even activate all the other meteorological weapons. Just 5 thunder pot alone isn't enough to kill all of Eternal Peace's people, but if you activate all the other meteorological weapons as well, that would then be a fatal disaster." Wait, how should I address senior brother? The one-horned god looked at the youth who was the divine flood dragon king, who opened his mouth to speak. "Your Majesty, his god by Shi of high heavens." "Senior brother by Shi," Qin Mu said solemnly. "The fact that you didn't activate 5 thunder pot immediately means that there's room for discussion. In that case, why don't we discuss?" The eyes of God by Shi were slightly farther apart than normal, but even though they were small, they were round. "What do you suggest?" "You go to great ruins and turn into a stone statue, and you will live," Qin Mu said with a smile. God by Shi laughed loudly, his voice sounding like a huge bell. He sneered and said, "Just a brat like you expects me to turn myself into a stone statue willingly. I'm a god of high heavens. If I came to this kind of agreement with you, wouldn't I become a laughing stock to all the people in the world?" Qin Mu refined a furnace of spirit pills to treat himself and replenish his life force. "What does senior brother suggests?" "I'll activate 5 thunder pot, and you will let me off, then I won't touch the rest of the meteorological weapons." Qin Mu consumed the spirit pills and said weakly, "No can do." God by Shi's tiny eyes shrank. Don't force me into the path of no return. If I can't complete this mission given to me by the high gods, I won't be able to live. Either you let me activate 5 Thunder Pot, and let me go, or I'll activate it and fight you to the death. Even if I die, I'll pull you guys down as well. Qin Mu shook his head. You can't pull any of us down. Bai Shi laughed loudly while Qin Mu took out the true dragon's nest to fetch out the god's limbs, which he had stolen from Xing'an. He then pieced these limbs into the shape of a 4-headed and many-armed devil god. Senior brother Bai Shi, I have ways to protect myself. I am skilled in the art of teleportation, and also know the art of summoning. This body is prepared for an old friend of mine. If you don't come to an agreement with me, I will summon him from Dutian world, and there won't even be a need to mention protecting me, since killing you will be a breeze for him. God Bai Shi's gaze landed on the 4-headed and many-armed body, and his eyes became even smaller. You're trying to scare me. How could you know any devil god? Qin Mu smiled and took out a white bone altar, as well as a wooden sculpture of a devil god. He executed ghost transferring god dispatching runes command and cast his spell on the altar. After a moment, evil wind blew in waves while devil chi churned. All kinds of runes began lighting up on the wooden devil god sculpture. God Bai Shi's face changed slightly, and he immediately said, "Stop. You can stop summoning. I believe you." Qin Mu immediately stopped and secretly sighed in relief. If he continued to summon, even if he managed to contact Dutian Devil King, the other might not pay any attention to him. Dutian Devil King carried a heavy burden, and his guts were small. Ever since he had left back then, he had never contacted Qin Mu again. He had also said that he would definitely not come back to his world again. If Dutian Devil King knew that 100 god statues had appeared in Eternal Peace Empire along with meteorological weapons of immeasurable power, he definitely wouldn't dare to show himself. Qin Mu took away the wooden sculpture, and placed the body he had pieced together on the altar with a smile. Now can we talk? God Bai Shi's face flickered between clarity and grimness. After calculating for a moment, he gritted his teeth. I have young and old in high heavens, and if I can't complete this mission, my whole race is going to be exterminated. I need to return to high heavens to bring them out. Your Majesty, don't believe him, the divine flood dragon king said in a low voice. He indeed has a race in high heavens, but high heavens aren't a place in which he can just come and go as he pleases. There's a receiving official in high heavens, and without his permission, no one can enter or leave. Qin Mu smiled. God Bai Shi's expression changed drastically and he sneered. How did Dragon Rearing Sovereign raise a traitor like you? The divine flood dragon king sneered back at him. If Dragon Sovereign wasn't subdued by his majesty, why would have I turned traitor? Dumbfounded, God Bai Shi he cried out, Dragon Rearing Sovereign was subdued by him. Similar to you, Dragon Rearing Sovereign was severely injured by me and had no choice, but to submit to me in the end, Qin Mu said with a warm smile. My terms to him were extremely generous, to become the Dragon King of Surging River. Every year, the people who commit suicide in the river and those that drown in shipwrecks are all his rations, so his meals are definitely good. On top of that, there are over 100 Dragon King temples of all sizes beside the river, and they all worship him. Dragon Rearing Sovereign enjoys his incenses and offerings, living his days out in unmatched comfort. God Bai Shi smiled from anger. Yet you want me to turn myself into a stone statue. I dare not accept it. Could it be that I'm inferior to that scumbag who raises dragons? Senior brother Bai Shi, what requests do you have? Just name them, and if I can satisfy you, I will definitely not be stingy. It's just that the matter of activating 5 Thunder Pot is too delicate. If you activate the treasure, either you or I will have to die. Qin Mu said with utter sincerity. God Baishi muttered irresolutely, unable to make up his mind. Qin Mu's gaze flickered, and he took a glance at 5 Thunder Pot. He was truly afraid of the huge bottle gourd, so he probed, "How about this, can you wait a few days? If the gods of your high heavens achieve victory, and activate the other meteorological weapons, I will turn around and leave, allowing you to activate this 5 Thunder Pot. I will return to great ruins and not dabble in the worldly affairs anymore, allowing the true gods to descend and erase the world. If you don't receive any news of the gods of high heavens activating other meteorological weapons, you and I will talk again. What do you think?" God Baishi gritted his teeth and said firmly, "All right." Qin Mu laughed loudly, then coughed a few times while gasping for breath. "Senior brother, little brother's body isn't in a good condition, so I'll take my leave now." Astonished, God Baishi thought to himself, "This brat sure is naive, leaving me here. If the senior brothers of high heavens are able to activate the other meteorological weapons, it wouldn't matter if I activate 5 Thunder Pot or not. But if they don't activate them, it would mean that they had all died, and there would be nothing wrong with me submitting." As Qin Mu walked out of the courtyard, his face turned dark, scaring Cai Yunxiang and the rest. His expression had changed way too fast. "Saint Xiong, inform the emperor to have sunshot divine cannon brought over here," Qin Mu said ruthlessly. "Also, I will write down a prescription, for which Saintess you will have to help me grab the herbs. I want to refine a poison. Next, have all the experts who are skilled in 5 demons transferring technique to come over so we can send 5 Thunder Pot as far away as possible." Cai Yunxiang hesitated for a moment, then probed, "Cult Master, it isn't good to do this, is it? We need to be prepared, just in case. If things go sour, we can move 5 Thunder Pot away and kill him." Qin Mu raised his brush and wrote down the spirit herbs and poisonous herbs he needed. The magistrate of Purple Chased City came to visit him, but was held off by Hu Linga. "Young master is not seeing any visitors for the next couple days." The magistrate was helpless and could only leave. Cai Yunxiang hurriedly contracted Cai family, asking it to inform the brothers of the cult to report to the emperor as soon as possible. She also had the elders in the cult to strictly choose the best experts of 5 demons transferring technique, and send them over as soon as possible. When Qin Mu handed over the prescription, Cai Yunxiang realized that there were over 100 types of herbs in it, and she had never seen or heard about many of them. These spirit herbs will probably be very difficult to find, so you will need to flip through all the medicine shops in the cities all over the empire in order to find them. It's going to take quite some time. Qin Mu let out a shaky breath and smiled. "I gave God Baishi those couple days for us to find the herbs, and also to wait for the experts of the cult and the emperor to come. Otherwise, why would I have let him consider it for so long?" Cai Yunxiang sighed. "As your enemy, they have to be careful not to choke on even rice when eating. I've already informed the sacred cult. Besides a few elders that who skilled in 5 demons transferring technique, the rest will come from Lightfinger's Hall." Lightfinger's Hall. Qin Mu stared blankly at her with a look of inquiry. "Light fingers mean that they are thieves." Cai Yunxiang smiled and said, "Thieves hold the majority in Lightfinger's Hall. They usually steal from the rich, taking away the riches from the wealthy families over to us. However, they are usually working on small-scale things. Lately though, the emperor recruited them into the army to grab the enemy's rations, and many of them achieved meritorious services, so their official positions aren't shabby." "I see." Qin Mu suddenly understood it and praised them. "In every trade, a master will always appear. Even a thief can be promoted and gain wealth. I must tell this to Grandpa Cripple." Yet he was also worried. He didn't know what the situation was like on God-broken mountain range, where Cripple and the rest had intercepted the gods of high heavens. With Grandpa Apothecary there, they should be fine. Even though he thought so, he still couldn't help worrying. Even though apothecary could save the injured, it was still a battlefield of gods and devils. If they got killed, even apothecary wouldn't be able to save them. Cai Yinxiang ordered the disciples of the cult to prepare the herbs, while Qin Mu wrote down prescriptions to treat his own injuries. Hu Linga grabbed the herbs from the medicine shops in the city so his body could be nursed properly. After all, the life force exhausted by using moon ship was no small matter. If there was a way to replenish it, he would do all he could to do so. After 2-3 days, Qin Mu felt much better. He then brought the divine Flood Dragon King and the bunch of flood dragons into the courtyard of Fragrance Well to ask, "Senior brother Bai Shi, would you like me to treat your injuries?" "No need." God Bai Shi said with alertness. "A person who's skilled in medicine is naturally skilled in poison. If I consumed your medicine, I'm worried I wouldn't even know how I died." Qin Mu took a glance at his wounds and saw that they were no longer bleeding. However, there were many broken bones that made his appearance pretty miserable. "If your leg is not treated soon, it will go lame and you will only be able to use one leg to walk. After 2 more days, the lame one will have to be sawed off. On top of that, the rot from your injury will slowly spread through the rest of your body, which is fine for now. You will start to rot alive." God Bai Shi sneered at him. "You are trying to scare me. I am a god, so how will my flesh and blood spoil? You used a moon to strike me and not a divine art. My flesh and blood won't spoil from an attack of brute strength." Qin Mu sighed. That moon is a treasure forged by a god during founding emperor era, so how could it not have any divine art? That moon is also the supreme yin whose qi is the best at spoiling a person's corporeal body. Hiding a sickness for fear of treatment, never did I expect a magnificent god to be like this as well. After he said that, he shook his sleeves and left. God Bai Shi sneered over and over again. Qin Mu walked out of the courtyard of Fragrance Well where Cai Yinxiang had already prepared a portion of the spirit herbs. "There are still some spirit herbs that haven't been found yet, but I have told the brothers of the cult to locate them as soon as possible. Once they are found, they will send them over on a fast ship." Qin Mu examined the spirit herbs and said, "The herbs now still can't take his life, only one leg at most." Cai Yinxiang jumped in shock and immediately asked in a whisper, "What are you going to do with his leg?" Qin Mu smiled and instructed her, "Have everyone if the surroundings, who has even the slightest external injury, even if it's just a prick from a needle, to leave. They have to get at least 1 mile away from Fragrance Well. What if someone who got pricked by a needle doesn't leave? That would be bad." Qin Mu chose his herbs, his eyes focused solely on them. The place where they got pricked will first become a small hole which will slowly expand. In just 4 to 6 hours, the rot will spread throughout their whole body and their bones will suffer from necrosis. Cai Yinxiang felt a chill run down her spine and hurried away. Fragrance Well was a historical site, so there weren't many people living around it. Cai Yinxiang instructed the magistrate to just move all them away. Qin Mu refined and brewed a medicine that was colorless and odorless, so it was extremely difficult to notice. After 2 days, God Bai Shi instructed someone to invite him over. Qin Mu sealed and put away the medicine he had refined into his Daotai sack as backup. He returned to the courtyard of Fragrance Well and saw God Bai Shi sitting on the floor. The wound on his leg had already started to rot, and it was spreading upwards to the flesh which had been fine before. "You laid your hands on me." God Bai Shi stared intensely at him with his bright eyes and croaked, "It must be something you did in the dark that my leg is spoiling so fast." Qin Mu went over to carefully examine it and shook his head. "I said you were hiding a sickness for fear of treatment, yet you didn't believe me. How could the moon of that moon ship be ordinary? You were injured by it, and if you had let me treat you earlier, you could have kept your leg, but now it's gone." The flesh and blood have already rotted, and the bone marrow is also dead. I can only saw this leg off to prevent it from continuing to spread the rot. The corners of God Bai Shi's eyes twitched as he stared at him ruthlessly. Yet when he saw his expression wasn't faked, he said dejectedly, "If I saw it off, I will only be left with one leg. I will lose a lot of my bargaining power. My medical expertise is astounding, and I can attach another person's leg to you. I have 3 legs here, and you can choose the one that you like. After cutting off your leg, you'll have to nurse yourself for 2 days before I will be able to replace it for you," Qin Mu said seriously. God Bai Shi's face flickered between dark and clear as he hesitated in making up his mind. "Do you know why I'm called Bai Shi?" he suddenly asked. Qin Mu shook his head. "When a white steed flits past a crack, it lasts but an instant," God Bai Shi said with an indifferent tone. "This is talking about my speed. It is the number 1 in the world, and you can't even see my silhouette before I'm already 1,000 miles away. With my leg injured, how will I be able to exhibit my speed?" Qin Mu nodded. When he had met the 3 gods of high heavens, he had caught one off guard and got rid of him, while God Bai Shi was the most difficult to deal with. His speed was extremely fast, and he moved to and fro like lightning. Even when Qin Mu had opened 9 heavens' eyes, awakening skill to the 9th layer, he still could only catch his silhouette. This was why their fight covered several thousand miles before the other's leg got injured, crippling him. "You can also run very fast with 1 leg, Qin Mu consoled him. "Grandpa Cripple of my village also had 1 leg, but his speed was still unmatched in this world. Look at your spoiled leg, should I saw it off for you?" God Bai Shi's body trembled and he asked in a hoarse voice, "Aren't you a divine physician? Don't you have any methods to treat it?" Qin Mu's expression dimmed. "If it was 2 days ago. If I saw it off now, you will still have 1 leg left, but if you continue to delay, I'll be forced to cut off everything from the waist down. But don't you worry, Grandpa Butcher of my village was also like that when I grew up, yet he also lived pretty well. He could run very fast with his arms, and it was pretty convenient not having to pee." The muscles on God Bai Shi's face twitched randomly before he gritted his teeth. "In that case, cut it off." Qin Mu took out Carefree sword and passed it to him while saying apologetically, "You are a god, so I don't have the ability to cut off your leg. It's best you do it yourself." God Bai Shi gripped the hilt of the sword and wanted to make his move, but tears began to flow down from his eyes. Qin Mu couldn't bear to see it, and was about to say something when God Bai Shi gave a loud shout and slashed down, severing his leg just below the chip. Qin Mu was stunned. He immediately went forward to help him stop bleeding. He put away Carefree sword and took out 3 legs, before saying with utter sincerity, "You can choose 1 leg. I'm sincere in wanting to save this world from disaster, so I will definitely do all I can to attach your leg back, for you to continue to be able to flit past a crack in but an instant. Don't worry, these 3 legs are all from Shingen's collection, so they are legs of the highest quality, and won't be any inferior to your original leg. You know who Shingen is, right? A madman who loves collecting. He won't collect any body parts that are not on the god level." God Bai Shi endured the pain as beads of sweat continued to roll down his forehead. His gaze fell on the 3 legs and he said in a hoarse voice, "How do I know if you had done anything to them? A person who is skilled in healing is also skilled in poison. If you've tampered with them, won't I be tricked?" Qin Mu looked at him with a sincere gaze. When God Bai Shi saw it an expression, he felt slightly ashamed in his heart, but he still didn't dare to believe. His gaze flickered before he pointed at a slightly shorter leg. "I choose that one." Qin Mu smiled and handed him that leg while putting away the other 2. "Don't worry, you can keep this leg. When your complexion is better 2 days later, I'll come and help attack it. If I leave this leg with you, You won't worry about me doing anything to it, right? Godby, she nodded and sighed. I shouldn't have doubted you. I now trust that you are a doctor who treats his patient like the parents treat their children. But I don't need you to prescribe me any medicine to recuperate. I'll do it myself. Qin Mu sneered at him. You still don't trust me. Oh well, if you need any spirit herbs, just instruct the divine arts practitioners outside the courtyard to fetch them. I won't interfere. When he was finished, he turned around to leave. Godby, she summoned a divine arts practitioners over and wrote down a prescription for the medicine he wanted. Outside the courtyard, Cai Yinxiang's gaze flickered, and she asked in a low voice, Cult Master, do you want to do something to his herbs? No need. Are all the spirit herbs I need here? There are still a few left. Qin Mu went over to check and after calculating for a moment said, these are about enough. He took out the other 2 divine legs and prepared to refine poison for them. Cult Master, you, Cai Yinxiang cried out. Even if I let him keep that divine leg, he definitely won't use it. After a few days, he will definitely make me take out these 2 divine legs and choose one of them. Qin Mu refined his poison seriously, planning to hide it in the legs. His serious expression was actually pretty terrifying. I don't know which leg he will use, so I need to prepare both of them. The poison that's left, I plan to. He executed his vital qi, and his hand techniques changed without end. Find a chance to return it to Xing'an. What do you think of this idea? Cai Yinxiang shuddered, her face ashen. Cult Master, I don't dare to covet after the position of Cult Master anymore, she said in a trembling voice. What nonsense are you talking about? Qin Mu turned his head back and smiled at her. His smile of a big boy was very radiant, like sunshine, and brimming with youth. Cai Yinxiang felt her blood run cold. Qin Mu used a lot of time and effort to refine the poison. It was multicomposite, requiring him to refine it numerous times. He had no first make hundreds of basic poison pills, then use them to feed venomous creatures, for example, venomous worms, toads, and various insects. Once they were ready, he used them as fertilizer for poisonous mushrooms and grass. He did it numerous times, until he managed to refine a couple poisonous eggs, which he planted into the bone marrow of the 2 legs. Those poisonous eggs would not dissolve on their own, but when bone marrow began producing blood again, their shells would break, and the poison inside would flow into all parts of the body through the bloodstream, spoiling the person's divine treasures, breaking his primordial spirit, and wiping out his soul. Qin Mu had just finished refining the strange poison, and saving some poisonous eggs for backup, when Cai Yinxiang brought him news. The elders and experts skilled in 5 demons transferring technique have arrived. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief and said solemnly, please invite them. Cai Yinxiang invited the people of Heavenly Devil Cult over, and Qin Mu surveyed them. He saw that numerous people of Heavenly Devil Cult were indeed generals in the army, for they had rushed to him without even wasting time to take off their armor. 5 demons transferring technique wasn't an extremely powerful spell, and it wasn't mainstream. It was a spell of the lowest professions, but in reality, even the weakest spells contained unimaginable power. There were no good and bad spells. The crucial point lay in only how one used them. If Qin Mu wanted to fight his way into the courtyard of Fragrance Well, then even if his people had learned the most powerful spell divine arts, even if they were on divine bridge realm and ready to make sacrifices, they might not be able to stop Godby from activating 5 Thunderpot. Yet the lowest 5 demons transferring technique could move 5 Thunderpot away without anyone having to die. Gentlemen. Qin Mu bowed and greeted them. We can only succeed this time, no failure is allowed. Otherwise, once the lightning covers eternal peace, I don't know how many people will die miserably. Whether or not we succeed, we will have to see everyone's abilities. The cult member hurried to return the greeting. All part of our duty. We don't dare to accept cult master's greeting. Qin Mu straightened his back and said solemnly, North, South, East, West, and Middle, 5 great thunderclouds are in 5 thunder pot, and there are fire bell divine weapons in the thunderclouds. Even if it's just simply moving this divine treasure, we have to be extremely careful not to activate the power within it. Does anyone have any understanding of the 5 great thunderclouds? Everyone looked at one another in dismay. An elder stepped out of the ranks and said, Cult Master, I have some understanding in regards to the 5 great thunderclouds and the fire bell divine weapons. I have wandered around in my early years and come across a strange book in the Black Tortoise Temple of Great Ruins. On it was recorded some anecdotes about North Deity. Qin Mu's expression changed slightly. Great ruins again. The 5 great thunderclouds and fire bell divine weapons are treasures forged by North Deity. The elder who spoke was Elder Saigong of Heavenly Devil Cult. North Deity is also known as Black Tortoise Great Deity, and is skilled in thunder spell divine arts. The 5 great thunderclouds and fire bell divine weapons are his masterpieces, and possess extreme power. In Black Tortoise Temple of Great Ruins, that strange book was carved on the back of a black turtle. Its whole body was made out of foundry iron, and it was extremely difficult to flip through it. I had managed to open 2 pages and read some records. Founding Emperor had once held a banquet and invited North Deity, who called thunderclouds, to run through all the worlds, and Founding Emperor couldn't help exclaiming endlessly about it. As for what that strange book means, I don't know. Qin Mu was astonished. North Deity and Founding Emperor. There was a connection between them. North Deity had once been invited by Founding Emperor as a guest. In the book, some of the marvels of North Deity's 5 great thunderclouds were mentioned, and I had researched some thunder spells after that. Elder Saigong took a breath and then continued, Great Thundercloud spell has been long lost, but there's Little Thundercloud spell in great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures, and it is what I cultivate. Even though I only saw 2 pages of that strange book, it allowed the cultivation of my Little Thundercloud spell to improve greatly, so I reaped quite the benefit. If Cult Master can believe me, let me be in charge of this 5 demons transfer. Qin Mu nodded and said, The power of Little Thundercloud spell is not insignificant, and since Elder Saigong cultivates this spell, why don't you exchange some pointers with me? Tell me about your understanding in regards to Little Thundercloud spell. Elder Saigong told him about the art, which he had comprehended in front of everyone, and Qin Mu listened to it carefully, corroborating it with his own great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures. When Elder Saigong finished talking about that, did he talk about his understanding regarding it? Ever since he was young, Qin Mu had received pointers from the 9 elders of disabled elderly village. The height of his horizons had long ago reached a height that ordinary people couldn't hope to reach. On top of that, he'd had other opportunities, like woodcutters imparting scriptures, the grooming of Qin Hanjin on the treasure ship, comprehension in Great Thunderclap Monastery, comprehension of Dao Sword on the stone tablet, comprehension in Little Jade Capital, and peeking into Imperial Preceptor comprehending Dao in Qingmen Pass. Even though his horizons couldn't be said to be number 1 in the world, there were not many who could surpass him. Little Thundercloud spell was one of the spells in great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures, and the rock on which Woodcutter had imparted his teachings already had a deep explanation of this spell. With the pointers of Deaf, this great scholar, and his own understanding, that of someone who was the great master, who founded 6 directions primordial spirit, giving pointers to Elder Saigong on thunder spells was no problem for him. Qin Mu lectured and everyone looked as though they were intoxicated. They gained their own comprehension. After Elder Saigong heard everything, he couldn't help admiring Qin Mu. He was completely won over and praised. Cult Master is a genius, a natural-born sacred cult master. Even though Qin Mu was young, had just hit 16 years old and his cultivation was still on 6 directions realm. His knowledge was great, and the depth of his understanding could already win over a divine bridge practitioner like him. This video will end here.